Good afternoon, and thank you for having us today. We are Alter Consulting Services. My name is Chris Antel, and I'm here with my colleagues Amanda Hershkovitz, Snigdha Lal, and Janice Patel. We're here to talk to you today about leadership development strategy. According to the Department of Labor, the average tenure of an employee in the United States is currently 1.5 years. The saying goes that employees don't leave companies, they leave managers. Today they're leaving more than ever. The biggest catalyst for employee turnover, the fact that individuals are being placed into roles where their skills don't fit. This is leading to decreased job satisfaction. A recent McKinsey study wanted to focus on this trend by determining whether individuals can be portable. The study went over the impact of 20 former GE leaders on the performance of their new organizations. They wanted to determine whether successful GE leaders would thrive somewhere else. What the results showed was that those leaders whose skills and expertise matched the strategic demands of their new organization had a positive impact of 14% compared to the rest of the market. However, when skills didn't match, had a negative impact of almost 40%. More emphasis is now being put on leadership development, as this industry now represents a $14 billion marketplace. High-impact companies can spend anywhere from $3,500 to $10,000 on mid-level to senior-level managers to train on leadership development. Leadership development is having a greater impact on the bottom line of companies. As you can see from the chart, the return on investment is significant. This is something we'll tackle further in this presentation with American Express. And now I'd like to transition to my colleague Snigdha Lal to talk to you about Tuckman's model.
Thank you, Chris. Now we're going to talk about how team actually forms. Most used model is Tuckman's model, created in 1960. In this model, he proposes that every team goes through these processes: forming, storming, norming, and performing. Although this is an old model, it's still valid today. However, with the advances and understandings of team dynamics and personality, we can now see the model through different eyes. This model relates to existing teams as well as the newly created ones. The first is forming. Now this is not just bringing the team together. We have seen teams that have stayed together since years but have never made it past this stage. The biggest reason that they have never progressed is because they have never stopped and asked the big question: why are we here? This stage is visited every time a new person enters the team, to let them know that how they fit into the bigger picture. The second stage is storming stage. This is the most destructive stage, and not every team survives it. It's triggered because of confusion, that who is responsible for what and who is responsible for bringing it all together. At this stage, someone has to take charge. The leader has to be prepared to take the responsibility of creating team dynamics and sort the mess. The third stage is norming stage. This makes or breaks the team. This is the performing stage, and it requires some serious efforts. The team won't move forward until all the issues have been addressed. The place to start is with a clear objective and get everyone to agree to work to gain the achievement. To achieve this, we go to why, what, how, and who of the agenda. Everyone has a clear role and knows what is expected out of them. The final stage is performing. When all the three stages are done and sorted out, the performing is automatically done. The search for the truth and answering them should be devoid of self-interest. This is the whole agenda of Tuckman's model. Now we'll see through the 5 practices of leadership. Imagine mobilizing others to make extraordinary things happen while building meaningful relations in the process. That's you at your leadership process. The first one we'll see is model the way. Here's where you walk the talk, where you do what you say what you're going to do, and you're doing things more than you're saying things. The second is inspire the shared vision, showing them the path that you're going to take them on, and communicating and clearly articulating to the team about the path that you're going to go on to achieve the success. The third one is challenging the process. Here is where you ask the team members to look outside the 4 walls, not accept the phrase that everybody says, "Hey boss, We have always done the things in this way. Then this way we need to do it. You want to encourage them to move out of that mode. Look outside the organization. The fourth one is enable others to act. Here's what you're going to do is coach and figure out when to coach versus teach. You want to empower your people but not micromanage, but not also be handoff. You want to find the delicate balance of getting people to do things, guide them along and enable them to do things so that they develop. And last, but certainly not the least, you want to encourage their heart. What you want to do here is praise and talk about the opportunities of their success at a 3 times the rate that you're going to talk about the opportunities of the improvement. If you follow these 5 practices in small ways, you will lead your team to greater achievements and accomplishments. Thank you. Now I'm going to move to Amanda where she is going to talk about challenging the process.
Thank you, Snigdha. We're going to be covering 2 important parts of the leadership process. Challenging the process. Challenging the process is all about seizing the initiative and exercising outside, as well as experimenting and taking risks. Seizing the initiative is about shaking things up, looking beyond the company to create a strong vision, and encouraging others to take on new projects. Exercising outside, as we've learned in the Leadership Challenge, 2 out of every 3 ideas come from outside of a company. It helps the company predict the future of their industry by looking beyond the 4 walls. Promoting new ideas and experimenting and taking risks is all about the failure. The failure is the learning process, as well as generating small wins and helping others to look forward. Blockbuster did not challenge the process. CEO John Antioco was well respected. Some may even regarded him as a retail genius. But he did not exercise outside, nor did he challenge his company until it was too late. They were behind the curve of the industry. And as you can see in the chart, there was a decline of video stores. In 1999, there were 28,000 video stores, and by 2012, only 6,000. Netflix was a household name by 2012. They had proposed a deal with Blockbuster in the early 2000s for $50 million. Blockbuster declined that deal, and Netflix is now worth $28 billion, while Blockbuster, who was once a $6 billion company, has gone bankrupt and has been forced to close all 9,000 of its stores. What the chiefs of Blockbuster lacked were vision of the industry and the shift under them. They didn't acquire Netflix and didn't seek out new opportunities. Forbes states that innovation requires the willingness to take risks. Wayne Huddes, a CEO, said that leaders often look back and realize that they were too late to make these changes, not because of complacency, but because of the lack of leadership. As you can see, Amex takes risks and promotes change. They've challenged themselves internally. They've created stronger leaderships within their teams, and they've realized that they can't produce external success if they're not successful internally. CEO Kenneth Chenault was observant of his surroundings and adapted to the shifts in consumer habit. In the chart, you can see that Amex was hit hard in 2008 during the financial crisis. They took the government loan, but were able to pay it back within a 6-month period. And as they looked back, they realized that they were too dependent on their short-term market borrowings. So they reacted promptly, increasing customer deposits from $12 billion in 2009 to $37 billion currently. This vision that the company shared was led by Mr. Chenault. And Mr. Chenault sees a $25 trillion opportunity in the payment market. Amex looks beyond trends to understand systematic change. They learn from companies like Uber, who make seamless transactions, and they're looking toward the mobile app commerce industry, which was once 0.09% and in 2017 is expected to be at 26%. $25 trillion is a huge number. Amex is going to promote it. Amex is going to capture it by promoting their vision, staying ahead of the competition, exercising outside, and learning from their past mistakes, one small win at a time. When consulting with Senior Vice President of SunGard Financial Group, Bill Geffer, he states that it's imperative to gain trust and confidence, and that only comes from leading by example. Leaders should communicate their progress as well as be frank about their failures, and this will create unity. This is something that we've seen Chenault do, and has led American Express to success. Now I'm going to bring Janice to speak about encouraging the heart.
Thank you, Amanda. So as Amanda mentioned, we're going to concentrate on 2 leadership commitments, the second of which is encourage the heart. Now within the encourage the heart commitment, there are 2 sub-commitments that help leaders encourage the heart. The first is to celebrate the values and victories of the organization, as well as to recognize the contributions of your employees. By doing this, employees are more invested in the company, and studies have shown that above average employee commitment leads to increased revenue growth. For instance, a study that was done by the Corporate Leadership Council revealed that 89% of employees are highly uncommitted or on the fence about their commitment to the organization. Only 11% are highly committed to their organization. What does high commitment levels get an organization? Well, by increasing an employee's commitment by even just 10%, employees' effort levels increase by 6%, which then increases their performance by 2%. Therefore, once companies have employees that are above average commitment levels, they also saw a greater revenue growth than their competitor. You can gain employee commitment by several ways. The first of which is to create a spirit of community within your organization, to get personally involved in the company, and once again, to personalize recognitions of your employees. I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to a manager at SAP, and she reinforced how important it is to recognize your employees' contributions. One way that she does this is by just simply sending off an email to her boss, acknowledging something that one of her employees did that was really well, and she believes it deserves recognition. And by doing this, she copied the employee on the email, and not only is the employee gaining that recognition that he or she deserves, but they're also building their trust and respect for their manager, which in turn leads to a better work environment. Another way that companies can encourage the heart is to implement performance reward systems. A study that was done by the Boston Consulting Group found that companies who implemented such reward systems experienced a growth in revenue by 2.1%, times the growth of other companies, and experienced 2 times higher profit margins than companies who failed to have any such reward systems in place. One company that does a great example of encouraging the heart and increasing their revenue at the same time is L'Oreal. L'Oreal was showcased in the Boston Consulting Group study, and it noted that in 2004, L'Oreal had increased its revenues by half and doubled its profits. And in 2012, despite the financial crisis, L'Oreal was still able to grow its sales in Asia by 18% and 17.6% in East Africa and the Middle East. So, what does that tell you? That L'Oreal, number one, has a great leadership structure in place, and they have other training programs and initiatives also implemented within their organization that allows leaders to grow from within. Now, I know we've only touched upon 2 of the 5 commitments, and we'd be happy to come back and present to you as to why the other commitments are also important. I'm now going to turn it back over to Chris, who's going to wrap up our presentation.
Thank you, Janice. CEOs cite the lack of qualified leadership talent as the most significant constraint on company growth. This is happening as the pool of potential leaders is continuing to shrink. The number of 35 to 44-year-olds in the workforce, the so-called key leader age, will drop by 15% in the next decade, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Thus, the pressure on company decision makers to rethink leadership development strategies is greater than ever. Marissa Mayer, Larry Page, Jeff Weiner. All 3 of these key leaders represent how companies can succeed when you adhere to a clear vision, strong corporate culture, and dedication to leadership development. We want to help you implement a similar leadership vision to help produce the next group of key leaders in your company. Thank you.